Hello, work life warriors. I hope you're doing well. Happy Sunday. I hope you are enjoying your Sunday. Hopefully, it is a beautiful day here in Raleigh, so I hope that you are out there in nature, hopefully, moving around, playing, enjoying yourselves. Today is Sunday, so what we're going to do for stress management is talk about reading and books. Books are a great way to reduce your stress. Not just listening to audiobooks, but reading them, shifting your eyes from left to right is a great way to decrease cortisol and to activate your parasympathetic nervous system. And so you want to make sure that you are reading for mental clarity, for improved confidence, to increase your vocabulary. Reading has so many beneficial or have so many benefits you receive from reading that you should make it a staple, whether that's reading a page a day, a book a week, a book a month. But we can read at any place, anytime. So technically, there's no excuse for it. We can read on our phones, our tablets, our computers. And so there's always something to read. And Facebook does not count. Facebook is not a real book. You have to read a real tangible book. I absolutely love books. Like I said, I tend to read a book a week. Since my doctoral program or journey, I have not been reading as much or reading for pleasure. I we had to read a lot of articles and everything, but as far as for pleasure or entertainment, I hadn't been reading. So slowly, I'm picking it back up since February, the top of this year. And so today we are going to talk about a book that was recommended to me by another entrepreneur, and it is such a thick book that I will probably have to do a couple of parts of this. But the book is called Unstressable, and as you can see, I have many, many notes. And so this will probably be split into a couple of chapters or a couple of videos. I will probably do about 4 to 6 of them. I'll try to keep them within 30 minutes. 30 minutes is a long time. Technically, I do not like to go over 25 minutes. Our attention span doesn't last that long. We have 25 minutes and then it's time to get up and stretch or take a break or something. And so I will try to stay in between 25 to 30 minutes, and you may get several versions of or several different videos from this book, but we're going to do it, okay? All right, so Unstressable. So I absolutely love this book. I read a lot about stress scientifically, and I read it the kind that comes out as far as like just regular public information. And so I read a lot of scientific experiments, a lot of scientific data, articles, but I do also like to read it from a very practical stance, right? And so stress is my ish. I absolutely love stress. Well, really, emotions are my ish, and stress is an emotion. And it is one of the emotions that also is produced from other emotions, which I absolutely love. The entire world that we live in comes from stress, right? The stress of not eating, not making, not surviving, something jumping out on you, droughts, all these types of things pushed our ancestors to create instability, right? To making sure that we have a place to live, that we have food coming in, that we have ways to protect ourselves from the elements, from danger, from harm. And so stress is really the entire world, right? If we lived in paradise, if we had no stress, we would do nothing. We do because we have to do, because we are stressed, and that causes us to act, right? And so stress is something that we think we know what it is, but we don't really know what it is. And we think we're managing stress, but we're not sure if we're managing stress. It's just so normalized, even though it is not normal, right? Stress should not be a daily thing. It should not be something that you're experiencing every single day, although it is normalized and we experience chronic stress in the societies that we're in. And so it's just a matter of understanding what is causing my stress? What is stress? What is causing my stress? And how can I eliminate it so that I'm not experiencing stress every single day or every other day? We want our stress to be few and far in between. Stress is not a bad thing for you per se. It can be used to build your anti-fragility, but too much stress all at once is never good for you. So even if you had 20 good stressors and like high level stressors, the intensity of them, right? Within a 30-day period, and it was all good stress, it will still take a toll on your mental health and wellness, right? So stress in general, too much of it, whether it's good stress or bad stress, is not good for you. And so we want to make sure that we're not experiencing stress every single day, and let's think of in a rolling day, 30-day period, that we are managing our stress, that we are balancing how hard we work and play, that we are practicing stress management and wellness and doing what we need to do to make sure that we're doing what's in our best interest, and that the vessel in which we use to experience the world is well, right? Because how can you have a wonderful experience, a great experience, if the vessel in which you experience the world is unwell? And that's really what we're experiencing today, because they say 75 to 90% of all visits to doctors are for stress-related symptoms. So that means 75 to 90% of us think that we're managing stress, think that we know what it is, and we are not. And it is not good for us. It is detrimental to our health, our well-being, our communities, our families, our societies, our employers. And so we have to do a better job with maturing, understanding what our emotions are, learning about stress management, and then training ourselves to practice stress management and wellness in our most stressful situation, and having communities around us for support. And it really is just that simple. Although it doesn't seem that simple, it really is that simple. Understanding what stress is, receiving the stress education so you know what stress is, making sure that you're managing it throughout the day. And that at the end of the day, you put yourself in the environments that counter stress, that make you feel alive, happy, well, and like you're thriving. So what we're going to do is go through each one of these tabs one by one. I think that's the best way to do it. And I'm just going to kind of talk about I'll read the paragraph to you and then talk about like what it triggered in me, why I marked it. So I am on page 2, and it says, so this is so interesting. This part that I marked right here, this is one of the statistics maybe about 12 years ago that led me into teaching stress management. At the moment, I was going through chronic stress. I was having panic attacks myself. And so I was trying to figure out how to eliminate my stress. And so I started Googling. And I came across this research, and it was very intriguing. And from there, I just went down a rabbit hole, and it became my life's work. So it says, research shows that 70 to 90% of all doctor visits in the U.S. are reported to somehow be stress-related. According to the American Institute of Stress, 1 of every 3 Americans live in extreme stress. 77% suffer physical health issues due to the stress that they feel. And stress negatively impacts the mental health of 73% of all Americans. 1 in every 2 Americans have trouble sleeping because of stress. And those kinds of stats are surely not just a U.S. specific phenomenon. The global sleeping aid market was estimated at $64.29 billion in 2019 and is expected to reach $101.7 billion by 2026. It says, in the UK, studies show that 74% of Brits are so stressed that they feel that they are unable to cope with life. 51% of those also reported feeling depressed, and 61% feels anxious. Stress has overtaken musculoskeletal problems, from aching backs from sitting at our desk too long, and are the top reason for work-related absences. With 17.9 million workdays lost in the UK alone to stress every year, right? What is more concerning is that more than 120,000 people in the U.S. die every year due to work-related stress. And this is despite spending more than 190 billion on treating illnesses that are associated with stress at work. All right, so for me, this sent off so many different red flags. As you know, I do workplace wellness programs, and so this stat or just hearing this completely blew my mind. I was aware of the 70 to 90% of all visits, but I was not aware of 120,000 people in the U.S. die every week due to work-related stress. And so let's just talk about that right there. 120,000 people in the U.S. die every year due to work-related stress. So let me just say that one more time. 120,000 people in the U.S. die every year due to work-related stress. So we know that work stress is an issue. We know that people are dying from work stress, and we know that the numbers are steadily increasing. Yet, we are not preventing stress. We are not intervening in stressful environments. We are just kind of ignoring stress, hoping that it goes away, normalizing it, but it is so detrimental to so many aspects of our health, our well-being, that we should not be doing that. We should not be ignoring stress. Ignoring it doesn't make it go away. It doesn't diminish the effects of stress or the impacts on our lives. So why do we continue to ignore stress? And why do we allow it to get to the point where it is causing mental health concerns or causing us to lose our life because of it, right? Stress, although it is normalized, we should not be experiencing it every single day. And it will kill us if we do, right? And so it's so very important for us to make sure that if we're experiencing chronic stress at work, that we are doing what we need to do to eliminate that chronic stressor, right? And don't normalize it. Don't withdraw, avoid, distract, blame. Really focus on fixing your emotions behind that stressor. So how do you feel about it, right? It should not be able to disturb you the same way every single time. The first time you experience a stressor should be the worst reaction that you have to it. As you experience that stressor again, you should be able to respond, and your responses should get better, right? Throughout each time, it should get better. So we should be learning from our stress to the point where it's no longer a stressor anymore, right? We should be maturing through our emotions, how we feel about that stressor, so it doesn't impact us as much as it used to. And if we're not doing that, then it will continue to be a stressor. So if in a work environment, this particular thing stressed me, the next day I should feel less stressed about that thing. If I still feel stressed or even more stressed, or not still feel stress, if I still feel the same stress or even more stress, it means that I am not managing my stress. I am not changing my emotions behind that stressor. In addition to changing my emotions behind that stressor, I need to change my behaviors, right? So what I do in reaction to this stressor, I want to move from reacting, which is kind of like autopilot, what you have been programmed to do, what you've seen your parents do and the people around you doing, to responding. What do you need? What do you think? What do you feel? What about the other person? What's in the best interest? What are the long-term end results? How do you want to play this? And responding from a place of power. And so when we think about stress, we need to think about it very analytically. Like, okay, how is it impacting my emotions? How is it impacting my behavior? What am I going to do to intervene so that it no longer impacts my emotions and behavior? And how am I going to be preventative so that stress is not a factor in my daily life? And the second part of this, where it says, despite spending more than 190 billion on treating illnesses that are associated with stress at work. So when they say treating illnesses that are associated with stress at work, I'm pretty sure they're talking about wellness, workplace programs, in the sense of like changing the work environment, changing workload hours, commuting hours, adding fuse balls, breaks rooms, free beverages, those types of things. While they are very beneficial and they definitely help, I don't feel like that they are the root. They are just the branches, the leaves, the fruit. We need to really think about the seed or the soil, and the seed is the person, right? So, how can you treat an illness if you're just treating the symptoms? You're not pulling up the root cause of what the problem is. And that's how we treat stress. We treat it based on the symptoms and not the root cause. And so it will continue to be a factor if all we're going to do is pretend to treat symptoms, right? Or the illness, but not necessarily pull up the root, what is causing it, the why of it, right? And so, in general, the problem is even if we eliminate the stressor, everywhere we go, there we are. So then a new stressor will pop up, and we don't know how to handle that stressor. And so we're right back into the stressful situation again, right? And we experience that over and over and over and over. But we have to focus more on what is causing the stress, the root of this, and it is our thinking, our perception, right, which leads to our behaviors. So if we get a great understanding, receive some stress education, and get a great understanding of what stress is, then we can filter that through the lens of our perception. So we can understand what we think about stress and how it impacts our emotions and behaviors. But stress education is the first part of that. And without that, we don't know if we're experiencing stress per se, how it's impacting us, what our perceptions are about stress. It's just we go, oh, that's stress, and go on to ignoring, blaming, distracting, withdrawing, the things that we normally do, right? And so we need to change our mindset. We need to change what we think about stress, what we know about stress, and what we think about stress, and how we move through stressful situations in order to get a different result. And then, so treating the seed focuses on the emotions that human beings experience when they feel stress and the actions that result from experiencing the stressor. And then as far as the soil, this is the environment, right? The environment is not just the workload, it's not just the break rooms and the commute. It's also the policies, the procedures, the bureaucracy, the leadership, the, office politics. All of those things play into stress, right? The hierarchies within organizations, the lack of job autonomy, the lack of really just doing the same task over and over and over. These things cause stress, right? In particular, leadership, where we tend to think of businesses like a Christmas tree with one person sitting up top and everyone just kind of falls in line on what is said and done and how things are ran around here, which is quite detrimental to a person. We are all individuals. We all have our own different preferences, strengths and weaknesses, boundaries. And so in any given environment that you're in, if the way that your internal culture is executed conflicts with your external culture, then there's going to cause stress, right? If your values do not align, if y'all do not move in sync, it will cause frustration and problems. And so it's in our best interest just to kind of figure out, as the seed, what do we value and how is stress impacting that? And then from the soil, what type of stressors are we inflicting on the seed, and how can we be less stressed and more nurturing, right? So that we can get the best harvest that we could possibly get by putting a seed in fertile soil. But a lot of the environments are stressful. They're not fertile soil. They're toxic. It's drama filled. It's a whole bunch of office politics. It's very toxic work culture. The policies and procedures protect the people at the top and don't necessarily help the people on the front lines. There's a lot of disrespect, disregard, distrust, mistrust, all types of things within organizations, right? Because people are people and they bring their ego with them. Everywhere you go, there you are. You don't leave your worst parts of yourself at home when you go to work or when you're doing anything, because how you do one thing is how you do everything. And so it's very important for us to make sure that both the individual, the employee, is managing their own stressors. It's their responsibility to learn about stress, to train on how to manage their stress, and to make sure that they are putting themselves in the environments that they thrive. And as far as the soil part of this, that you are putting all of the nutrients into the soil that can help the employees grow and not just survive but thrive. And it's so very important for us to do that as entrepreneurs, as business owners, as employers, because we get more innovation, more engagement, more productivity from employees who are less stressed, who are more engaged, more in control of what they're doing and how they're maneuvering through the workplace. And so it's very important to kind of figure out, how do they work together? How do they work hand in hand? You cannot change the person without the environment, and you cannot change the environment without the person. So how are they working hand in hand, right? It is prevention and intervention on both ends, right? How can we intervene to cut off and eliminate all of the things that are stressing us, but how can we be preventative in making sure that we do not pick up any new stressors, right? And that we are eliminating our stress. And so I'll just go here to another one. All right, and this is on page 7. It says, to listen attentively, you will need to learn 4 languages that correspond to different ways in which stress affects us. You could feel stress mentally, emotionally, physically, or spiritually. Based on the gate through which stress grabs hold of you, the signs will differ, and how you need to deal with them differ. So I absolutely, right here, they talk about 4 different ways: mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual ways that stress impact you. And I'll just go through exactly how stress impacts all 4 areas. And then the next video, we'll dive a little bit deeper into this. So mentally, stress impacts your thought process. It impacts your clarity. You'll have brain fog, how you think through things, how you process things. You'll have a lot of cognitive dissonances. When you're stressed out, you can't connect ideas together. You can't necessarily solve your own problems. You're really just in the energy of the problem, right? So the energy of the problem is different than the energy of the solution. Those are 2 different types of energy. And so we have to shift from the energy of the problem and move towards the energy of the solution. But it is not something that is easy to do, right? Especially in the midst of stress, or when you have been experiencing stress chronically and you have that, lack of mental clarity or brain fog or forgetfulness. You can't figure out how to move from the problem state of mind to the solution state of mind. So mental stress is one of the biggest stresses that we have, because we're experiencing this world through our brain, through our senses, right? And so if our mental is impacted by daily stress or chronic stress, it is impacting our entire experience, right? Because this entire world is mental. The second one is emotionally. Now, stress is an emotion. It creates physical reactions in the body. Your palms start sweating, your heart rates increase, preparing you to fight or flight. But also, stress is an emotion that can come from other emotions. So if you're feeling frustrated, angry, sleepy, disdain, you cannot feel happiness or feel positive emotions or relax when you're in negative emotions. So stress can come from feeling negative emotions. I feel stressed when I feel frustrated. I feel stressed when I'm angry, because there is something that is triggering me that I have not solved, right? Or depending on what your standard is, you may feel angry that you can't solve it, or that you're triggered, or any other things. Emotionally, stress is one of the or stress is an emotion that trigger other emotions. So it's an emotion that can be stacked on top of emotions, right? Or stack on top of emotions that you already have, which is not beneficial and not a fun game to play. Physically, so we could talk about this twofold. Physical stress could be literally something like you fall down the steps and break your leg, and the pain of that will cause stress. Absolutely, pain is a stressor. Seeing yourself hurt will cause you stress. So when it says physical stress, it's talking about the physical pain, like physically feeling pain, being hit by a car or something like that. But then also the side effects of emotional and mental stress. So like the back pain, the aches and pains, the trouble sleeping, the poor digestion, the headaches, all of these symptoms that come from stress related problems or not solving them. That's a big problem that many of us face today, is that we're having physical symptoms from not managing our stress, and we don't even know that it's a physical symptom, right? We think that it's something else, but really when you dig deeply, the why is because we're not managing our stress. And then spiritually, so depending on what you believe in, it says 98% of people believe in something higher, right? So there's only less than 2% of people who are atheists and don't believe in anything, think that things are random. So if you're one of the people who believe in something higher, you are causing yourself stress every single time you're trying to control an environment, trying to control an experience, trying to control an end result. If you believe in something bigger than you, you are not in control. The biggest thing that you can do for yourself to bring yourself relaxation and peace is to submit, is to fall into flow, to experience life as it's happening and not try to control it. Now, I know it's easier said than done, but as long as you keep your hands on the wheel and you think that you are in control, you are always going to experience stress, because things are not going to go according to our plan most times, but they will go according to some plan, right? Whatever you believe in or not believe in. And so stress can really impact us in these 4 different ways, and we don't necessarily think about it that way, right? We tend to think about stress as only the physical symptoms, right? Or emotionally, like, I'm so stressed out, I'm so frustrated. But stress is more than that, right? It's the emotions, it's the mental that comes along with it, how you cannot move into solving the problem, how you can emotionally get stuck in feeling how you're feeling right now and not thinking about how you would like to feel and shifting into that feeling. And so stress is very, very important in the lens in which we see this world. And with more education, training, and practice, you're more in control over how you experience stress, your emotions and actions behind it. And the things that used to stress you out no longer stress you out, right? So you build a bandwidth. And that's basically what practicing stress management and wellness is building a bandwidth for stress, right? So it no longer impacts you anymore. What we do know is what impacts one person with stress doesn't necessarily impact another, right? So it just really depends on what your resources are, what your perceptions or stress are. And so it's in our best interest to receive the education, training, and practice that can help propel us into the future we really want. So I am going to go ahead and stop here. Please share with me, what are your thoughts in the comments? What do you think about what I've read and said so far? Have you read this book? How is stress showing up in your life? How are you managing stress? Do you think managing stress is a priority and practicing wellness is a priority? I would love to know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Thank you so much for sticking around and chatting with me about Unstressable. This is part 1. I will release part 2 next week. It'll probably be several parts of this because it is a thick book and I have several notes, and that was just chapter 1. And so many things to talk about with it, but I would love to know what you think. I would like to make this an open discussion starting next year. I am actually going to make this a book club where we can actually talk about it together. So it's not me just talking at you and reading your comments, but it's us engaging in deep conversation and thought. So you still have time, work life warriors. Go out there and play the stress away. Make sure that you're ready when your alarm goes off tomorrow morning. You deserve the best, and it is your responsibility to add the fun, play, laughter, joy into your life to improve the overall quality. So I hope this helps, work life warriors. I will see you tomorrow for stress management wellness chat, and have a great day.